Hello dancers, welcome to another episode of Free Dance Podcast. Today we are joined by an incredible artist who has not only made wave on stage but also behind the scene. Our guest is a dancer, choreographer and artistic director. Please, let's welcome Quintus Jansen. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you here. I'm so happy that you made it.
Yeah.
Because we've been trying to have the podcast
To
for
get
a while
together,
now.
yeah.
But it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Hi, everybody.
Good.
Thank you for tuning in and watching. Watch all the other content as well.
Nice. You know, we were talking before we started the podcast, and one of our mutual friend, KK, is the one that told me my friend tried to bring Quintus to the podcast because he have a lot of knowledge of the dancing industry in South Africa.
Yes.
And it would be great for the others, new generation, to learn who is, because he have done so much. So I'm happy to have you here. I think we need to start from the beginning.
Yeah. Tell me about myself.
Yes. How?
Well, I started dancing in Cape Town.
Okay.
So I grew up there, and you grew up in the poorer neighborhoods, and you play soccer on the street, you play whatever, and then it got a bit rough. And then my mom was like, okay, you can continue playing soccer, but let's make a deal. You can learn some dancing. And dance is actually very much a part of the colored community culture in Cape Town.
Okay.
So everybody dances, and it's not weird that a guy wants to dance. So that was really cool. And I liked it because there were girls. So that was a bonus. So I started dancing, and I was just this nerdy little quiet kid. And my aunt had a dance school, so I went there and learned. And then she was like, okay, I see something in you. Why don't you try dancing someplace else? And I did that, and I joined a dance school I was with until about the age of 17. I danced with that school. And I started with Ballroom and Latin American.
Okay.
So that it's still very popular in Cape Town to this day. Yeah,
Okay,
very
that's
big
nice.
participation. And so with the Ballroom and Latin, I was just interested in how the body moves, interested in just the way of expressing, and then over your course of career, you kind of get exposed to more, which is really, really nice. So you're dancing on concrete. You don't have the right equipment. You don't have the nice floor to ceiling mirrors and all that. So you make do with what you have. So we danced in community centers. We danced in school halls. Yeah. You danced wherever you could, in a garage at someone's home. You just danced.
My dad said the same thing all the time. You have to dance whatever.
Yes, you make it work, and your friends get together and they make it fun. So you don't even think of it as a bad thing because you're not exposed to a different level yet. You're like, this is what it is.
Yeah.
And you just appreciate the music. I did actually fall in love with a little bit of street dance at that time.
Okay.
When I got a bit older, like
Yes.
10, 11 years old. And I was like, okay, I like this cool thing because that was like the start of really mainstream hip hop music. You had these huge boom boxes that you carry on your shoulders. So that was me. And in the communities where my family stayed, it was happening there. So as I would visit my family, I'm like, oh, you guys are doing this. Cool, let's set up a dance floor. Get some cardboard. We tape it together. We're dancing, break dancing on the street. And so I got exposed to so much. And because I was a dancer, other people in my school, like the girls were like, look here, I do ballet. We need some guys. You do Ballroom and Latin. Come and do it. Then I got involved in some productions and did some ballet, and I was like, oh, this is a cool style of dance. So I got exposed to a lot, but my main focus was Ballroom and Latin.
Okay.
And yeah, so we had a lot of people visiting over the years and teaching us and just imparting to us both locally and internationally, which was really great. They come into the communities. Yes. And then because there's nothing else left to do, when you had your school holidays, that's all you do from 9 a.m. in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. You are there. Your parents maybe come drop off some sandwiches, or if you're lucky.
If you're lucky, yes.
So that's what you do, right? You dance all the time, and you get exposed to everything, and you train hard. You are not afraid of hard work. That's just what you do. And then with the ballroom and Latin, from about the age of 10, 11, when I started getting involved with the hip hop, I started doing really well in the ballroom and Latin, where you did well provincially and you'd win competitions, and then came on to nationals and you'd all get into a bus and you have a big party in the bus and you'd come to Johannesburg, or you'll go to Durban or to the Eastern Cape, even Sun City and so forth, and you get in a bus and you drive through the night.
That's amazing.
You get there and you see your friends from all over the country and you dance, and I started doing like really well nationally. So luckily the Ballroom and Latin school that I was part of in Cape Town, we were like the top Ballroom and Latin school in the country. So within the company or within the studio, you'd have the top 4 or 5 couples in that category. So between the ages
of 10, it was difficult
to be top in the school.
Oh wow, okay.
So that created a nice little internal competition. So your friends off the dance floor, but on the dance floor, like, I'm taking you out, man. I'm coming for you.
Do it.
Yeah, so it was a really, really nice environment where it was friendly and fun and progressive. And then it was also like competitive.
Okay.
And in those days, unlike today, where you can open your device and just look at any YouTube video from last night or even live, and you have the best in the world literally at your fingertips. In those days, how we used to learn a little bit more about what was happening internationally is we would get video cassettes. Right?
That's how I learned as well.
Right, you get video cassettes brought in from England or America or something, and someone would get a video cassette and then make a copy, and they'd send a couple of copies to people, and then you get copies of that copy, and you'd all sit in front of the TV and be like, rewind, pause, what are they doing there? And you study that, and then you go back to practice, and you're like, okay, let me implement this. So I think that was really good, because you'd learn 1 or 2 or 3 concepts, and you train it in so hard till it's like, okay, what's the next thing? Whereas I think nowadays they almost like they have too much information almost. So there's not enough time to really go deep and implement it. So that's a little bit different from the generation where I grew up compared to now. So that's how we started dancing. And then as I turned 16, I went overseas to dance for the first time.
Okay.
So it was like, the community comes together. I qualified for a world championship.
Amazing.
We have fundraisers, and you're selling food on the side, and you're having a party and a dance. And so it's really nice.
Yeah.
And then I went overseas, and even though I was serious about dancing during my teen years, that's when I really opened up my eyes. Like, you go to Paris, and it's like the best dancers in the world, and you're like, wow, this is amazing, I want to do this. You go to England.
Yeah, I want to get there, because to leave the country at such a young age, that's difficult.
Correct.
And how did that shape your vision of dancing and get more experience around the world? How did that shape your dancing?
Luckily, so when I didn't go live there, it was, you go for 3 or 6 weeks at a time, and you train intensely, and I would take my school books with me and still study, because I was a nerd.
Yeah.
So what I loved about it is it gave me a tangible vision of the life that these dancers lived. So it was like, what do you do? And they would speak, and they'd say, this is what I do. I do homeschooling, and then we go to the studio and we'll train in the gymnasium. A lot of the European companies or studios in the Ballroom and Latin world would train in gymnasiums, as opposed to a dance studio and so forth. And they would train there the whole day. They'd be supported by the government or by their federations and things like that. So when they travel, they get a subsidy. And I was like, wow, we've got to get that level of sophistication to South Africa. Yes. But from my personal dancing perspective, it was like, I came back, I was changed. Like my first trip, it was Paris and England. My hairstyle changed. The way my poise was changed. The way I approached my practicing, I started getting dance books, and I would write everything that I learned. And I have, to this day, like thick files of notes. I've learned this. This is how they dress. This is how they train. This is what they eat. Like, I was a real student of dancing. So that first trip changed everything. And then, of course, the people who dance abroad are, when I was traveling, I never traveled for hip hop or street dance. it was the classical styles.
Okay.
So you're going to theater, you're going to this amazing, beautiful ballrooms with pressed ceilings and chandeliers and red carpets in beautiful staircases. So it was like, this is your normal life. They're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, this is a step out of my normal life.
Yeah.
So I was exposed to that weird, well, it could be a career. It's a real exposure to the better things in life, because even though I couldn't afford it at the time, my friends were coming to and like, oh, come with me, I'm going to go buy an outfit.
Yeah.
And then you're going into Versace or Gucci and they're like getting the suits fitted and treated well. And I was like, wow, this is your life? They're like, yeah, don't you live like this? And I was like, no. So it gave me an exposure that it could be a career, it could be a good life to live. And then also the mentality of how they appreciate it. So the ballroom and Latin dancers would go to ballet class and we would learn something and they would appreciate the art form. And then the ballet dancers would come to Latin. Okay, you're not allowed to move your hips that much, but they would appreciate, oh, this is the nuance. This is how you hold your poise. This is partnering. How can I do my pas de deux better, you know? So there was this shared exchange and community and appreciation of the arts, and I was like, I want to do that in South Africa. Yeah.
And you, when you started doing Latin and ballroom, you thought that would be hard, because I have seen Latin and ballroom like so extremely difficult. You in your brain you say, okay, I'm gonna do it because I like it, or you saw, oh, this is going to be difficult, I need to prepare myself and be ready to expose myself around the world, because you saw in Paris and in London they just live for that.
Yeah.
And you know, I think like in here in South Africa we were talking as well, like doesn't take like much. It takes as a hobby, not like a professional career.
Correct.
So how that was for you?
Well, there's a few things you mentioned there, so I'm going to touch on a few of them. So, first of all, it's part of our culture in Cape Town. You know, like in Cuba, they dance salsa or whatever. You dance jazz, you go to dance with your family, and from the young kids to the older grandparents, we're all dancing together. So, it's part of the culture, right? And then we did ballroom and Latin, and for me, as I said, I was a nerd, so I would be reading a lot, and I would be very observant of my community around. So it was a social thing as well, whereby you see destructive relationships and you see not healthy relationships. So I was like, ballroom and Latin, you have to have this partnership between two people and you have to make it work and create something beautiful. So for me that was attractive, where like, okay, I need to teach myself how to build a relationship, how to change myself within the context of that. So for me it was like, okay, I'm going to do ballroom and Latin. Also, in the late 90s, when I was really taking dancing seriously, hip hop and street dance wasn't really a career then, and the ballet was also socially a bit out of my reach because I didn't grow up doing it, and the niche of people of color doing ballet at that time was very, very small. You had to be an anomaly. So ballroom and Latin was more accessible, it was more relatable to me, and it was something aspirational. So it's all of that, and that's also one of the reasons why I moved to Johannesburg, because it was a commercial hub, economic hub. So in Cape Town you could dance, but it was just for fun.
I see the difference, yes.
Whereas if you move to Johannesburg, there's a little bit more appreciation. You could possibly make more of a career of it. And so when I moved out of Cape Town, first went overseas for a couple of years and trained there. Then when I moved back to South Africa, I moved to Johannesburg because this is where I could build a career in what I love to do.
And when you moved to overseas, of course, overseas always is different. People think different, they dance different. How that thing that you learned there, you brought to South Africa, and how that changed the dance in South Africa?
Wow. First of all, I think it's the work ethic. So what I saw over there is, even though they are supported and things are handed to them a little bit easier than in South Africa, that their level of dedication and their level of detail was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, you had to study each muscle, each joint, the brain, how you approach things, the methods that they use. So I wanted to bring that to South Africa, and we did that.
Okay.
So when I started here, when I moved back, I was just a performer. So I performed in the theaters, performed as a commercial dancer and so forth. And then only after a couple of more years, once I wanted to kind of change my career, because I was like, it wasn't really feeding my soul as much. Because, you know, like you do corporate work, it's quick, fast food, do a gig, onto the next one. Do a gig, onto the next one. Then I started progressing and do more theater work where it was seasons of, okay, you're doing a month of a show, you're doing 6 months of a show, you're doing a year long of a show. And I really felt the growth in that. So I was like, okay, yeah, people need to really invest their time into growing in that specific style or genre or whatever you choose to do. So that's where I felt that teaching was calling me, and I wanted to, so I did like a bit of a migration where I was still performing but teaching privately on the side. And my teaching methods then evolved.
Okay.
Because from a ballroom and Latin perspective, it's very largely private lesson based. You and your
teacher.
And your teacher with your partner. And you are equipped with the knowledge, and then it's your responsibility to go and train that knowledge. They're not there sitting with you and making sure that you're training.
Okay.
So you have to mature really. If you want to do well, it's your responsibility. If you don't do well, it's your responsibility, your fault. So I brought that to my training methods, and then I started getting involved a lot more with street dance and contemporary a lot more, because I feel that the different dance genres, that's also what I wanted to bring in from abroad, is the different dance genres sit in silos and they are so separated from each other, whereas there's so much more we can learn from each other. So that's what I tried to bring in to the mindset in South Africa. And then, of course, there's a different mindset and approach when you're doing competitions compared to when you're training to perform. I always say there's arts and entertainment, right?
Yes.
So your artistic approach is very different to the entertainment approach. Yeah. So all those things and experiences and knowledge I wanted to just impart. I just gave as much as I could and shared as much as I could. But then I had to learn the business of it as well. Which is a totally different approach. So nowadays, I don't say I'm in the arts industry or entertainment industry or the dance industry. I always say I'm in the business of dance and the business of entertainment, because that is what supports art. Like, the artist will not be able to do what they do without the financial support and without the structure that the business mindset or the business approach brings to it. So all of that is why I came to Joburg. I'm like, okay, we need to change something. So that's what feeds me at the moment.
And that's amazing that you are talking about the business and the support. Do you think that the government need to support more arts in South Africa, or more private sector need to support more dance in South Africa? How do you feel about that? How will you get the money to go back to your community and give that what you learned to your community? Because I have the other day Rosalind, and she's sponsoring her dance in her community, and I said, but how do you support that? From my money. And why? Because I want to give back what I learned. How do you manage to do that in South Africa?
Okay, so being a student of dance and the arts, so I study not just different dance styles, but different art forms. So I look at painting, I look at sculpturing, I look at the art of designing cars and buildings, architecture and stuff like that. So what I did is, I'm also a bit of a realist, so let's look at the reality of the situation. So I went back to Michelangelo, Leonardo, those kind of artists, right? And say, what has changed or developed from those days to today? Not much. So that's the reality. Dancing is not going to be supported by the government or the arts. Done. Right? They will assist, they will fund, but if you are solely supporting on the or relying on support from the government, you're fooling yourself. That's the reality. Okay. So government will come in and say, I'm going to sponsor one company, 10 companies. but there's 100 companies. So the reality of the majority is a few might benefit from the government support. Great, amazing, it helps. But it's not the reality for most people. Same as private sponsorship. They'll support a few companies or a few dancers and things like that. But for the majority, it's not going to be a reality. So over the past 500 years, even in developed nations like Europe and things like that, it's not been a reality. So for you to think that Quintus is going to come into South Africa and get the government to support us, it's fooling yourself, right? So I had to be a realist. Then I go, okay, what were they supported by? Patrons of the arts, all of them, right? So what we have to do is create public-private partnerships, where we say we get funding from government that covers the basics, maybe facilities and, equipment and things like that. Then private people come in and maybe they could cover salaries and productions and seasons and things like that. So what happened is, that's why I say, like, our society in South Africa needs to develop. 90% of our people just are focusing on eating. And transport. They're not thinking of, my kid needs dance lessons, my kid has a skill at drawing, so I need to develop that. They aren't there. So the more sophisticated our economy becomes and our society becomes, the more there is an appreciation for the arts. So it all works hand in hand. So you have to get a few people who are at that level, who want to invest in the arts, and you go, right, let me get those patrons and they can invest. But the ideal situation is a symbiotic relationship between the public and the private sectors. And then how do you get people to invest in you? Okay. So I'm going to start a company. That's what people think, right? I'm going to start a Facebook group, or I'm going to register a company through CIPC, and people are going to give me money, and I'm going to have a company.
And that's it? No.
No.
It doesn't work like that.
Again, that's not the reality, right? So you have to be smart when you approach. So you can say, and in every industry, it's that if you want to become a graphic designer, what are people going to ask you for? They are going to ask you for proof of work. If you want to be a videographer or a video editor or a clothing designer, whatever, proof of concept. I want to see your work. So, you want to be a dancer? Show me what you've done. Show me at least that you've put the effort in, you've put in the time, the hours, you've made an effort, so that I can help you take that level and elevate it to another level, to another level. So I think dancers need to do that, or the dance industry needs to do that, and a lot of people are. It's difficult to sustain it for a long period of time, but that's what you need to do. Go there, grab some friends together, your video friends, your lighting friends, your choreographer, your clothing designer friends. Let's work together, let's create something, and then you use it to showcase your videography, your editing, your clothing, my dancing, or my choreography. So you need to do that. You need to have a proof of concept and then develop it, and then the private sector will be like, I like what you do. Let me put some money behind that and take it to another level. The public, the government always also, when you apply for funding, and boy, have I applied for funding, many times. Let's not go there.
So, but why all? So I don't understand, because this is the first time that I have heard that. Don't wait for the government, but everybody is so focused on, I need to get funding for the government. So why are we having that thought and staying going like, I'm gonna work, I'm gonna try to bring private people to get it? Why we are so focused on the government that need to help
I think because company? It's accountability. Our government, that's the mandate. The Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, that's the mandate. They have a budget for it. That is what they are supposed to do. And the government funding will definitely assist in, multiplying our involvement in the arts, our exposure to the arts, and developing and discovering those hidden talents in whichever community. So they have a very, very important role to play. They are not, however, the be-all and end-all. Gregory Makoma posted something on Facebook that many people shared this past week or two, where he said that our government has created a beggar's mentality, a dependency.
Yes, I saw that one.
On money from the government, and it is well within our rights as citizens of this country to say, you have a mandate, you have a budget, you need to be accountable to put that money somewhere. But again, reality is it's going to take a while for those people to be held accountable. It's going to take a while for the government department to change, because I think the new head of the department has only been there for about a year. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of people in the industry or in that department. So you're going to have to sift out and find out, okay, hey, man, you've been taking a little something, or you've been giving it something to your friend, which is a reality in every country. But then there's a process that needs to follow to hold that person accountable. Then it's another person that needs to come in and then to see. So it's going to take a while. I don't have 2 years to wait for someone to at least give, here's 5 rand, now you can go do something. I'd rather create something and take the ownership on myself. And if that comes in, it's a bonus. And it's really, okay, now I can use that. I can bring in a couple of extra dancers into this production, or I can get a better facility, or do it up, or we need new floors. The money from the government is for that, in my mindset, right?
Yes.
So I would rather be self-sufficient and create something, and then when the government does say, we've got money, can we give it to you? I'm like, yeah, here's 3 years of something that I've done. I started there. This is where I am now. Please come and invest in this. But you have to do something for yourself. To blame someone else all the time for the rest of your life, you're going to end up in the same place.
And going on over what you're saying, do you think like the new generation of dancer, they don't have good quality because of that, or because the teacher waiting to have more funding so then they can get better choreographer, better teacher, or better facility to train the kids? Why we don't have that mindset of, I will need to train my student, like you do in your school? I want to talk about your school. Like prepare them for life, because we were talking ourselves.
Correct.
I want to create a school where all my kids know what dance means. And if you go to dance and ballet, let's say, you need to know what are you dancing. You can't come to the studio and say, yes, I lost one leg, but who choreographed one leg? Barishinigo. Why? So do you think that waiting for that as well, you told already, but waiting for that support of the government is making the studio and the dance academy not teaching properly the students? Sorry if I put you on the spot.
No, that is a multifaceted and very deep question. So that's why I'm like, okay, where do I start?
Yes.
South Africa's dance industry is still 30 odd years after democracy very polarized. So to be blunt, we have the haves and then the have-nots. So we have people in the suburbs who have access to studios and things like that, and then you have people who are in the townships and things like that who don't have access to those facilities, right? And I doubt that many of them have a lot of government funding, right? So you go to yourself and you say, okay, what results are being achieved by both, and how are they getting there? They are taking ownership. The people that are taking ownership of their own artistic development.
Okay.
And they have a vision and a goal, and that's what I want to do. Yes, they have more resources, 100%, 1,000% more resources, but they are taking ownership. So they go, okay, I'm going to do competitive dancing, or I'm going to do artistic dancing, or I'm going to dance for TikTok, whatever it is. They have a clear vision, and that's what they're going for. Whereas at the lower level of the spectrum, I think it's just like there's an opportunity to escape from something. So they are working towards something, they have a vision, whereas those people, and myself included, because I come from that, is like, I just want to get away from the violence, or I just want to get away from the poverty. I just want to escape having to just go home in school all the time and play in the street. So it's a very different approach to it. So that's the first thing. We have to acknowledge that our industry in South Africa is largely polarized from economically advantaged to economically disadvantaged, and that in South Africa is a reality. It's also split along racial lines, right? Okay. Reality. There are a few places where they converge or they cross-pollinate, but that's a minority. And then the second half of your question, or another part of your question, is with this, is it the standard of dancing or the quality and that kind of thing? So
that knowledge of what you are doing.
In South Africa, there's a saying like, you're a hidden gem. Or, hey, those restaurants, find a hidden gem. It's like, guys, people have known about it for years. It's not hidden. But, and then you're a rough diamond. And I'm like, why can't we develop those diamonds from ground? Why can't we just find 100 diamonds and develop them? Why must everybody be a rough diamond? We need to have lots of diamonds. So that's where the standard comes in, right? I think it is multifaceted, but it comes with information and access to information. So from my experience, the ballroom and Latin world, the contemporary world, the ballet world, jazz, and like the more classical styles of dance or European based or evolved dance styles have a lot of the information is still very guarded.
Okay.
So you cannot have access to them online now. So it's not democratized. Okay. So I think if that gets shared a little bit more publicly, it will help with that.
Okay.
The government can help with that.
Yeah.
They can say, hey man, we got a program. We get all the top teachers and they give master classes, a series of master classes, and they share 50 hours each of what they just pour their hearts out.
Yeah.
Give those people who are disadvantaged access to that information. We're going to give you something, you have to then use it. So at least you have the information, you're working on the right things. That's a start. I'm always an advocate for... I'm like, yeah, you can go learn online on YouTube or whatever, but the thing is, it's not two-way. And teaching and education holistically is two-way. So if you give me that information, I can go and practice. But how do I know if I've interpreted that correctly, if I'm on the right path, and that's where a teacher relationship comes in. We're like, you're on the right track, but like just do that a little bit more. Just think of it in this way. And there's so many ways to teach a similar principle, right? You can point from your leg, you can point your toe. There's turnout, there's elongation, there's dynamics involved, and there's which muscles you use. So now you just have one point of information. And someone else with a little bit more in-depth knowledge or experience can come in and say, okay, now think about it in this way. If I say to someone, think of this as the end picture compared to this is the root cause where the move should come from, it creates a different effect. Or it might resonate with one student and then with another student, the other way it teaches. And that's where the art form of teaching really comes into play. It's tailored to the person. You understand their learning methods, or you see what clicks with them and you double down on that. So there's the information which I think can help. And I understand that's always it's socio-economic. It's the teachers need to live and eat and make money, right? Because they have a life to live. So although they might want to give more to underprivileged communities and share knowledge and experience with regards to that, they don't necessarily have the luxury of that because they're just trying to make a living. So I get it, right? And it takes an effort to consciously go and pour into another community or another person and so forth. And that's where external support comes in. So if I say government, hey man, 20% of your income, we'll give you the money for that. All good, take that 20%, go invest it there in that community, and then give some results at the end of the day. If that could happen, South Africa's rough diamonds will all really become polished diamonds. Yeah.
Do you think South Africa is really behind compared to other countries in a dancing way?
Yes. The reason I say that,
yes, because I'm from Cuba. In Cuba, we have different way of living. You know that, but the government supports the arts in Cuba. So wherever you go, you're gonna have like ballet dancer, contemporary dancer, musician, artistic plastic, and many art forms that they are well known around the world. And people say, okay, he's from Cuba, he has good training. But I feel like in South Africa, we have an amazing talent dancer and people, but it's not like he's from South Africa, I want to see that. No, stay there.
I almost think like, if you think of Cuba and if you think of Cape Town, there's a lot of similarities.
Okay.
There's great development and training and structures. And then it stops.
That's it.
Where's your outlet? Where's the industry? Are the Cuban artists, are the Cape Townian artists being celebrated and really living and appreciated in their home country or city? Or do they have to go overseas to get appreciated and to get compensated for their training for the many years that the government has invested in them? So, like, I know so many Cape Townian artists that move up to Johannesburg and they are earning good livings, right? In Cape Town, they would get paid a quarter of what they get paid now, right?
And I always thought that Cape Town was better for artists than Johannesburg.
Cape Town is great for training.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
But like, the reality and my exposure to it, obviously it's my experience, so don't come to me, guys. This is just my experience and when I chat to people.
Yeah.
But for every 100 cents that you earn in Johannesburg, you'd probably, for the same amount of work, get offered definitely less than 50%, definitely less than half of that.
What?
Yeah. Like, for corporate gigs, if you get paid 10,000 Rand, you might, if you're lucky, get paid 3,000 or 5,000 Rand in Cape Town. Same work. That, I don't know why that is. Maybe they can just get away with it, or whatever the reason is. That's the knowledge and experience that I've been exposed to. It might have evolved a little bit, and there might be some things that stand out. But also, if you look at the dancers or the artists that are training there, it's a good standard, good quality. So instead of using the professionals, they use that one at school. Yeah, you're still learning, right? But you're really good. So you might not be 100% quality, but you're 70, 80% quality. So we can pay you because you still, it's part of its exposure. It's part of your training process. It's not the case for everybody. That's just how I've experienced over 20 odd years of being in the industry. It's also starting to evolve, possibly because a lot of companies are now being headquartered there, and there's a different mindset that comes with that. There's a different budget that comes with that. So it might have been changing, but I can definitely say that I haven't heard recently of, sure, I'm in Cape Town and I'm earning really good money. Or I'm in Cape Town and I live a decent lifestyle. Or I'm in Cape Town, I'm not living with my parents, still trying to hustle and make it work. With online platforms, it has changed a bit.
Okay.
But it's not because of the specific industry that you're in, because now you're in the content creation industry. So yeah, you're a dancer and you're earning decent money and you're getting brand deals, but it's not because you're a dancer, it's because you have a following on TikTok or Instagram, which is content, not dance.
Wow.
So it's a hybrid of, you're a great dancer and you do commercial work, but you have to subsidize that with other things as well. And therefore, you can earn a decent living. But also then, if you think of longevity of that, how long will that last? Like, you can't be that 40-year-old guy that's dancing and there's a 24-year-old guy that is different, right? I don't want to be... Like, that's why I evolved my career. I was like, I don't want to dance in this way. And like, when I'm 35 or 40 or 45, like, you have to consciously evolve your career. 100%. So that's what I find with it. Coming back to our point of Cuba, Cape Town, Johannesburg, why do all the dancers or artists move to cities like London and New York and Sydney and so forth? Because the people there appreciate and compensate the artists for their work that they do. You can be an amazing dancer in Cape Town compared to being the same dancer in New York. who's going to get paid better? Do you know what I mean? So there's those things you have to consider. As I said, like social media is kind of making it a little bit more evenly spread, and it's changing, definitely is, and that's wonderful. And you as an artist need to change as a result of that. So you have to consciously go, am I only going to be in that studio winning that plastic gold medal at a competition? Or am I going to go out there and go do those auditions and challenge myself? Or am I going to go out there and make movies, short films, TikTok, social media videos? Like, you have to say, how can I maximize my art form without compromising my art form? Yeah, I think that's where we are at. Kind of like
that's interesting. I never thought about it. Just to move, you've been 20 years now on the business.
Yeah, the business part.
Yes. I want to talk about one of the experience that you have. You went to Strictly Camp Dancing. How was that experience for you, being there and know, like, okay, now I'm dancing in theater, but now I get into the world and television.
Yeah.
You know, how is that experience? What changed?
Sure. That experience was really fulfilling. It's really good for various reasons. It put dancing on a national platform. People appreciate it more. So for myself as a person, I want to take myself out of it, but just for the actual appreciation of not just ballroom and Latin dancing, but just dancing in general, and then having people be educated of, oh wow, it takes a lot of effort for that 2-minute dance on television. It's hours and hours and hours of training this lump of meat into do something and to move the way it should. So I really appreciated that the producers did that, the sponsors did that the audience were receptive to that. For me as an artist, it really changed how I teach.
Okay.
And how I approach my communication to my students.
Okay.
Because they were like, wow, that person did something in 1 week. You guys did that. And I'm like, okay, let's put it to you like this. You as a recreational dancer, you go to 2 hours of dance class a week.
Yes.
Right? So if you take out holidays or whatever, you might dance for 2 hours a week, and so you might dance for 40 weeks in a year, right? And so that's 80 hours of training over the space of a year. So in that time, your body is learning at a certain pace, your mind is learning at a certain pace. You've got 80 hours. You don't do any other extra training because you're a recreational artist. It's only 2 hours a week. That person on Strictly Come Dancing is doing 80 hours per week. Right? Between 40 and 80 hours a week. Right? You're contracted to do a minimum of 10 hours. But you get kicked out the first week. So you're putting in 40 hours to be bare minimum, right? So you're putting between 40 and 80 hours per week. Then you're not having a week in between that class. So your body is remembering, and you building momentum and building momentum and growing. So what you could create in 80 hours over a year, people are creating in a week. That is why
that's wild.
Your teaching method changes. It gives perspective to the student, like, okay, I've got to put in some time and effort. And also just gives you that momentum of understanding, okay, this is how the body works. If you guys put in a little bit of this preparation. And then when I talk about 80 hours, that includes like designing costumes, searching for music, figuring out choreography, healing injuries.
Because you have to choreograph as well. Or there is someone else to. So it's you. So you
can bring in help.
Choreography as well, being there.
100%. You are the creative director, the choreographer. You are the director. You have to choreograph, understanding that there's 7 cameras on you. you have to understand knowing that if I do this costume change, this will happen. So you're designing costumes. Then you have to understand that this is the lighting that I want to start off there. You have to edit the music to a degree because it's going to be played live by the band. So you have to understand, I want to use this part of the song to evoke this kind of effect. Then you understand the judges are over there, so I want to kind of do a little something to them. So you have to understand that you're playing to so many audience members, audience through the cameras and audience being judges. Then you have to deal with the psychological aspect of someone that comes who's a rugby player or a singer or whatever, a corporate person. Then I have to be immersed in your world. So this is the psychological. They didn't understand that it's such hard work. They didn't understand that this is what it takes to be good.
Wow.
So there's emotional breakdowns. Then they have families and other work. So it's like balancing schedules and arranging all of that. So you have to be like, and you can't break down, and you can't. So you have to be like the stronger. Yeah, moments where like it's really emotional and stuff. And I'm like, but that you gotta use as fuel to kind of go next week, next time. This is what we do. And so it's a very immersive experience, and it's a very fulfilling experience because. And it's almost like, like having a breakup afterwards when the season ends. Because you 3 months, 4 months of, and then it's done.
Yeah.
And there's nothing left. So that's why, sports people, soccer players and stuff like that, they come to the end of the season and they're like, That's why actors who do 3, 4 months, 6 months of a movie role, then afterwards they need like a detox because it's like part of your life has ended.
And when the partner, because the other person that you dance, they are not professional dancers. How do they keep up on your train, on your dynamic? Because they come from I don't want to say easy life, but it's different what they do from dancing. How do they keep up like your intensity, as a choreographer, as a dancer? Sometimes we get frustrated with us and with the dancers as well, that they don't get the step properly. How do you do that? Because I think I wouldn't have patience to do that.
Sure. I think that there's a large psychological aspect that comes into play. So you have to first of all get to understand the person.
Okay.
And then you say, okay, what feeds them? Are they a goal-orientated person where they want to achieve, so you play to that? Are they an egotistical person where you're like, you're going to be on TV, you want to look good, and then you play towards that? Or like, you're doing it to show your kids that, you're never too old, you play towards that. So it's the psychological aspect. I'm always one person that tries to remain positive. So I'm always like dangle a carrot instead of beating them with a stick. And that's what I saw most of the people do is remind them constantly of why they're doing it. And once they have that, they will motivate themselves. And then when they go through the tough times, you remind them of that. And then also, like, most people are competitive, where if you just compare them to someone else, so you say like, hey man, they're putting in 10 hours. Okay, I'm going to put in 15. Oh, they're putting in 15 hours. Okay, I'm going to put in 20.
So you play
and you play up against that, because again, it's ego. And it's also like you remind them that, look here, you've signed up for this, you've committed. It's going to be a part of your life that you want to remember 10, 15, however long from here. So let's make it memorable. This is an adventure. This is a process. And then as a creative, you have to be really smart. So you get them involved in the creative process where they are contributing and not just a receiver. And then they are invested more. And then when you're choreographing, I'm not going to choreograph like I'm choreographing Swan Lake.
Yeah.
You choreograph to their strengths. And that's where, if you have a preconceived idea as to what you want to put on stage and they have to fit into that, you're probably not going to be as successful as, let me work towards that person's strengths and bring that out, because a body does take years to train. I'm not going to get that body to do something in a week or two. So let me use what they are doing, incorporate that in choreography and enhance that. So you have to be really smart you want to show off your choreographic skills, but you're not working with a professional dancer. So your ego needs to like put it in the pocket here. And then you say, I've got to take that body and enhance that. And ultimately, you're not being judged effectively. Yes, you are, but you're not being judged. They are being judged. So the better they look, the better you look. So it's all of those things that come into play in your head as a creative, as a person in relationship, because you grow really close. You spend more time with them per day than you do your spouse or your girlfriend or boyfriend or something. So I
think that's such an amazing school to be learned by, you know, like, because you do that in weeks. Normally choreograph and teach take years, you know, and doing that in such a short time is just amazing. It does say a lot of the teacher, because you talking, I just see myself as well, because I'm not choreographer, because I don't like choreography, but I think I have so much respect for choreographer, but I'm a teacher. And when I do teach, I always put myself in the position of the person, especially because I'm still dancing, but I don't wanna be that type of teacher that said, no, you have to look like that, and my teacher told me it has to be like that, because that person is different from you.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So when I teach, I'd say to them, how do you feel? Tell me how. I know technically this is the way that you do it, but how you will do it in your way.
That is so amazing, because like, you come from a classical background, and I think probably that's why you're very drawn to contemporary, right?
Yes.
Because it's a little bit more experimental, and things, whereas ballet is a little bit more structured, right? Coming back to an earlier point of drawing from different dance genres, there are certain competitions that have improvisation sections. So yes, you have your 2-minute pre-packaged choreographic piece, but then you have 30 seconds or a minute to listen to a song. You have a minute to think about it, and you have to come on stage and perform. Right? The street dance and hip-hop world, that's part of their culture, is where they have different platforms to express yourself. So you come in and there's a circle or a cipher, and you just go in, and with your peers, you are experimenting what my body can do, hearing the music, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I like that. Oh, you tried, but it didn't work. And you can experiment in that kind of environment. And then you have battles where like you're communicating and you're debating and arguing with someone. So all of that is a creative outlet. And then you have the hip hop and street dance that's, it's packaged and it's choreographed and set there. But I think the beautiful thing about art is that there isn't just one way to do it. As many people there are is how many artists there are, right? And that is also a clear distinction you need to make, is that you can prepare as much as you can, but that's life, right? So that's why it prepares you for life. You can prepare and study as much as you can, but if that question in that exam comes out a certain way,
it's different where you go like, oops.
Or in that interview you can prepare, but when you go into CNN and there's an interview and they throw a question, you better have such a good understanding that you can adapt to that and incorporate that. And just like dancing is a body language, I always tell my students that they should read more. And they're like, Quintus, what are you talking about? I'm like, yes, you must be a good student, but the better your vocabulary, the better your expression is going to be. Because there's a difference between art and, as we said earlier, entertainment and creativity. So then I ask them, what's the difference between art and creativity? And then they have to delve out, and I dig deep and I draw it out of them, and then they understand, okay, there's a different process perhaps, there's a different outcome that you want to have perhaps. Same with entertainment. Art is probably a little bit more in, and like it's individual, whereas entertainment is, this is what I want you to see. So it's like telling the audience what you want them to see. So I think that all of those things that come together just makes for a well-rounded human being, because ultimately we've chosen to be dancers, but the other artistic forms or creative forms are just ways to bring out what's already in us as humans. So I always tell the kids, because we teach a lot of kids, right, at different schools at different ages, and I'm like, you're never going to be a dancer. Let's just get that fact. But what you'll learn from dancing is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's going to make you be a better lawyer or a better accountant or a better engineer. So use those skills, hone those skills here in a safe, supportive environment. Then when you use those skills in a different environment, you have them. And you're really a step further ahead in the competitive field of business. So yeah, different approaches, different outcomes.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Now you talking about your school. I just want to know. I want to learn more about what do you do in your school. What is the type of? If some of my kids want to come to your school, what can you offer to them?
So, from teaching, I went on to we need to formalize and structure this from private lesson, individual, to a more structured environment. And first of all, I have a company called Creative Culture Productions.
Yes.
And that's very intentional because it's about creativity, it's about culture, and it's about being productive.
Yes.
Right? And then Dance Culture Studios is also very intentional. So dance, obviously very specific, culture, because I just thought that was an important part to bring out, especially in a multicultural society such as South Africa. And each dance genre has a different culture behind it.
Okay.
And then studios was also intentional. So you get a dance school. I could have called it Dance Culture School or School of Dance. I could have called it Dance Culture Academy. I could have called it Dance Culture for Vibes, but I specifically chose Dance Culture Studios because in a studio, if you think of a music artist, they go into studio and they play a beat and they get an inspiration and they're writing and they're creating, or they're on the mic and they're freestyling. It's a creative space.
Exactly.
For me, an academy is you going like a school, like you're going to learn some things. And yes, there are aspects where our dancers have to write down and they get tested and all that kind of stuff. But predominantly, it's a studio where it's come in, we accept you who you are. Yes, there's a structured format, but you come and experiment and see what's your voice in dancing. So I wanted to create that kind of space. A second aspect on that is that I wanted to be a safe space. So come in here, you've had a bad day at school, you've had a bad day at work, you've had a fight with your significant other, come here, dance it out. Be very kind of introverted in the way you express it, or be out there and be angry about it. But we're not going to judge you. Safe space to express yourself. So a lot of our classes are not separated by age.
Okay.
They're separated by standard. So if you're an 18-year-old or if you're an 8-year-old and this is your first dance class, you're in the same dance class. Because you're learning the same things, how to get in touch with your body, how to move, understanding how to listen to music, etc. When you're an intermediate dancer, whether you're 15 or 19, you're intermediate. Come and experiment, and you're learning that level of being educated at that level, and then when you're advanced or whatever. So that's how we structure it. And the same when you go to classes in, Millennium Dance Studios or Broadway Studios or Pineapple Studios in London, they don't come, how old are you? Okay, cool, no, you go to that class. No, like you sign up for an intermediate class. You sign up for an advanced class. No matter what age. If you're a talented 12-year-old, why must you being 12 hold you back?
Wow,
when you can compete against a 16 or 18-year-old. So we're like, okay, you're a talented 12-year-old, dance with the 18-year-olds and own that space. When you enter competitions and things like that, and we need to tailor that to your specific age group, that's fine, because that's the structure we chose to participate in. But from a teaching dance culture studios perspective, we don't limit you in that respect. And then the journey that we've been through is quite interesting. So my main focus was ballroom and Latin, but as you've heard, I've kind of been trained in many other dance styles. So I'm like, we can learn from everything. And then I took over a social dancing studio in the Mall of Rosebank in 2008. So that was like a social dancing world. So I'm like, oh, this is a different world, hey? But hey, man, from a business sense, it made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You know, like you get those Fred Astaire's and Arthur Murray's overseas, and they are production lines, you know, they are franchises and they run things. So I was like, cool, I can learn from this. So it helped me understand the business of dance a lot more with my competitive background. And then I learned from that. And then we had the David Matamelas, the Debbie Rakuzins, the Somizis, and all of those kind of people teaching there. And I was like, okay, cool. So we have this kind of cool hub of things happening. And then just moving on to, we needed something different, then opened Dance Culture Studios in 2012. And again, ballroom and Latin, hip-hop, contemporary, even ballet classes. I would bring in different people to come and teach there. But it was still quite separate. And that went well and grew really, really well until COVID hit.
Yeah, that's when everybody...
So we had to like rewire that. Cool, we go online, we do our thing, we service our people, and it was just so much of a process for them as for us. But we're like, let's keep this thing going. We don't want to like totally stop it from momentum perspective. And then since then, we've grown into 100%. So separate entity, like Quintus Jansen is a separate entity to Creative Culture Productions, is a separate entity to Dance Culture Studios. Quintus Jansen is still involved in ballroom and Latin and contemporary and ballet and all the different tap and stuff and doing events. Creative Culture Productions is more like the corporate work we do.
Okay.
So choreographing for corporate events. I run World of Dance under there and other platforms that I've created. And then Dance Culture Studios has now evolved where we only teach street dance and hip-hop. The reason for that is we, again, from a business perspective, had to go, okay, what is going to make financial sense here? Where's my expertise lying? Cool. I can bring in a contemporary teacher to really teach contemporary and stuff like that, but experience has shown that they eventually want to build their own thing and do their own thing. Same as ballet, they want to build their own thing and then go. So they'll kind of come into dance culture and grow up a student base or whatever and then start their own things. And I'm like, I don't want that. And so I said, okay, let me focus on where's the appetite, what are people hungry for? Okay, everybody's doing these TikTok dances.
That's what it is.
They're doing those challenges. Okay, cool. Let's use that and kind of say, okay, that's a good entry point. That's just through the door what's happening. But now let's develop that further and actually like invest in your skill and your passion. So that was really like the teaser, the hors d'oeuvre. And then they come into the studio, they learn proper street dance, and we teach them the proper foundations, proper syllabus. Okay, there's a lot of people out there with syllabi, but there's a dance culture associated with street dance as well, which is as important as being able to do the coolest moves. So we kind of said, okay, we're going to focus on street dance, and that's what we're doing now. So we've trained dancers from, baby level, gone right up to earning their pro-tier colors, and really being recognized by the government and by their country for performing on a world stage. And then we've got dancers who've gone into the commercial space who are performing in gigs and really doing well in that aspect. And they still work with us where they might be choreographing a high school musical or getting involved in teaching at different schools for us. Because that's also part of our business model has changed. We don't just have the studio base. We actually realize that the parents don't want to drive around. They don't have the mental capacity, emotional capacity, time, luxury to fetch their kid at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when school finishes and take them to a thing and then go back to work. And then so we're like, okay, how about we take good quality teachers into the schools and you leave the kid there, and then after work the parents can just come fetch them. So we're like, okay, that there's a need for that. So the parents know that they're looked after, they're getting quality and value, and it doesn't affect my work day. So we kind of did that and approached different schools. So we're in quite a few schools around, and we just focus on taking the administrative aspect off the teachers and then making sure that the quality of teaching is remaining consistent. So that they're not just teaching TikTok dances. So the business model has changed from street dance and not just in studio, but actually satellite studios around. So that's like you see in our studio, there might be like a core team of dancers and they think that that's Dance Culture Studios, but we actually probably have like hundreds of students around, and they're at different levels, and they have different platforms and outlets and things as well. So yeah, you have to adapt and change to the times, right? You can't do what you did 5 years ago as a dancer, as a business person, as a creative. You have to evolve with the times.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And the way that your mindset is making, like, I want to get this a business, but you still want the artistic part be there. You know, so you're not letting that, because so often you see people like, yeah, I want to get the scoop, I want to get money, but the artistic part is gone.
Correct. And you know, it's a numbers game. Like, I always had this thing of, if you had 1,000 dancers, 100 of them are gonna really like dancing a lot. Like 100 of them, 1,000 of them want to dance, but 100 of them are gonna be like, okay, yeah, I like this thing, I want to get better at it. And then who are going to be really good, or maybe 50 of them are going to be talented with the passion, and then maybe 20 of them are going to be like, whoa, you guys are exceptional, right? So you need 1,000 dancers to get 2% of really exceptional dancers. Whereas if you have 100 dancers, you're gonna have 2 good dancers, and one of them leave and like, you know, or they go on to different things, or they get an injury, whatever the case might be. So I'm always of the thing of, if you have 1,000 dancers or 10,000 or whatever the case might be in our country, the more people, I'm like, okay, so many people come to us and they're like, oh man, we use studios, oh no, we're in the south of Johannesburg, or we're in Midrand, it's too far to travel. And I'm like, okay, let me find you a studio that I would recommend close to you, because I want them to dance, whether they dance with dance culture or not. Go find someplace else to dance, because that all adds to the community of dancers. So I would rather go to a competition or a theater and have a full house than to have like, we are really into dance and we have 20 people here. No, rather have 200 people there.
100%.
So that's kind of my mindset, whether you dance with us or not, because I believe that we'll be blessed in either way, and the right people will stay, and the right people will go on to better things, and the wrong people won't stay, you know, and they'll do whatever. And just the energy that you give, the culture that you create, the community and environment that you create will bring the right people there. And there are also seasons. So sometimes you'll have great season, and then you go through a slump and it's bad seasons. And that's just life. So dancing is teaching us life, man.
Literally. And for me, this has been a master class of business. And how do you keep that artistic part for the whoever wants to dance. And thank you so much for doing that, because I just learned a lot.
Okay.
I just felt like, okay, that's why I did the podcast. But I didn't think about taking a business way and also giving like a culture or program or platform for people like you, like KK or whoever comes, to expose and show what they have in their mind.
Yeah.
Because for me, to keep everything inside and then we just say nothing, keep inside,
yeah,
we're not going to evolve.
100%. We have to share, right?
We have to share.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You should actually, cut. I'm just saying, like, perhaps, like, in future, you could say, let's have a panel. 3 or 4 people, we have a cup of coffee, and we can exchange ideas. Because I believe that kind of, you're like sandpaper. You make each other smooth, Like, I disagree with that, but if we just change it like this, and you can come up with great ideas that could help the industry. Because I'm involved with so many aspects. I'm involved with the studio aspect of the dance industry, the competitive world, the eventing world, the corporate entertainment world. And that, like, I'm sure you've heard from some other people, that is a totally different world. And I don't necessarily focus on that, because I'm like, what am I going to invite into my life? Do I want to be that person?
Yeah.
But if you bring in, for example, you've had Owen on the podcast, Owen Lanza, and he is not necessarily a fan of competitive dancing.
Yes.
Right? So if you bring someone from the competitive world, the eventing world, or maybe a studio owner or whatever, and say, like, let's discuss how you see it, maybe we could give a different perspective on that.
Okay.
Or if you have different choreographers would event companies and choreographers and say like, this is what we want from choreographers, or this is what choreographers want from event. Like they can learn from each other, and then the tide lifts all boats. So then everybody can grow and have a different perspective. So sharing one person's story or journey or mindset is one aspect, and then having a discussion with other people is also like season 2, guys, coming.
Literally, I think I'm gonna have that idea. Thank you for bringing that, because I was speaking to Owen about competition as well, and I'm not a big fan of competition, but the reason is, when you go to a competition, you just see kids jumping around and not dancing. That's why I get frustrated when I say, okay, what are we doing? Gymnastic? Or we are doing a competition where you can learn from the other. Okay, these have different style. I'm going to try to introduce that style into my body. Then this one will say, okay, he took from here. I'm going to take from here, but what he has to put in mind. So that's the kind of thing that I want to understand, but unfortunately, the competition are not doing that.
We can talk for hours.
Yeah.
But, so it's not necessarily the idea of competition. It's probably how we're doing it, right? Because if you look at competition in any other industry, there's competition between different car manufacturers. Does it help the standard of cars go up? Yes. There's competition between different advertising agencies or brands or clothing manufacturers, and they push each other to be better, which us as consumers, it improves, right? Then, like I run a competition called World of Dance, and it's one of the few competitions where different genres are dancing against each other. So you have ballet dancer against a contemporary dancer, against a tap dancer, against a hip-hop dancer. But what happens on stage is one thing, but what I loved was backstage, because you had the hip-hop dancers, they would form an impromptu circle and play me a Bluetooth speaker, and they'd be a vibe, and all the classical dancers would be like, what's happening there? Oh, they enjoying dancing for the sake of dancing. It's not just about those 2 minutes on stage. It's actually about community. And then you have the contemporary dancers who are stretching and warming and really getting every single inch of their body ready before they perform and focusing. And then the hip-hop dancers, the street dancers, like, maybe I need to stretch it a bit more, and maybe I need to approach my preparation for that 2 minutes, so they would learn from each other. And then you get the solo dancers, like in their own world with their AirPods in, and they're doing the thing. And then they see like a whole dance crew and how they're all together, and they're like, man, I could actually be cool to be part of a larger group, to maybe push myself a bit more. So the competition aspect is to help. It's just a different way of approaching your dance development and your personal development.
I'm completely agree.
We are probably doing it wrong here, and there are dance genres and dance styles that are doing it wrong. But if we're working towards something and say, we can have some guidelines. No, none of these things. If you're doing a kick, don't bend your back like this. So
But that's exactly my point when I say I have done international. I have 5 competitions in ballet. I'm not in a big company. I'm in South Africa where I feel good. You know what I mean? But my point is, like, 2 years ago, I judged the South African international competition, and I saw them in Cape Town.
Yeah.
And sponsored by Dirk. He's the CEO.
Yes.
But I saw where the contemporary part came, I saw all of the dance like this. So I have the same tricks in the same competition.
And that's where intention comes, right? So if your intention is art, if your intention is entertainment or competing, I need to jump higher than you. Whereas if it doesn't need that, if the intention is just a beautiful line, your intention is there.
Exactly.
And on that note, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You
It was
for
an
having
amazing
me.
podcast. Sorry that I have to run because I have to teach now, but I think it was an amazing. I think I'm gonna keep with that panel you told me and bring people that can debate, because this is the podcast that I want. I want everybody to feel free to debate and analyze and do
just share, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Cool. Thank you so much, guys, for watching another episode of Freedom Podcast. Remember to subscribe and see you on the next one. Bye.